And you think you know, you don't know. You don't. You just don't know. If they go Trayvon Walker at number 1 and he's available to you at number 2, what do? And if you don't want to trade back Detroit, you will end up with, I believe, the most culture fit of the defensive ends in Aidan Hutchinson. The Jacksonville Jaguars are rumored, to be favoring Trayvon Walker over Aidan Hutchinson.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And in this breakdown, to quote it, go ahead and watch the film of Walker. During his time as a Bulldog, the 6'5", 275-pound football player lined up at all of the following positions: outside linebacker, defensive end, nose guard, defensive tackle, and even inside linebacker. Keep in mind, all of this was done in a 3-4 scheme. So how could a player at 275 pounds move around and play all these positions? Well, that's the interest in Trayvon Walker. That's the hype around him. That's why people are falling in love with him. Yes, he wasn't the consensus number 1 all season. Welcome to the NFL Combine and welcome to Pro Days, where scouts actually get to go sit up in person with these people and get an actual sample outside of film. Film is very important. And in film, I don't need to see you just making explosive plays. I want to see you making the right plays, the right moves, dissecting what play is about to happen if you're on the defensive side of the ball. And what does that mean for the Detroit Lions? If Aidan Hutchinson is available at number 2, and the Jacksonville Jaguars end up taking Trayvon Walker number 1 overall, I'd like to know. What's the move, guys? Kayvon Thibodeau, Malik Willis, Kyle Hamilton, what are you still doing here? Or are you running up and you're selecting Aidan Hutchinson? I would really like to know. I want to take you guys back in time, because maybe we forget just how the NFL draft has worked out multiple times, especially at the number 2 overall pick in Detroit's favor. The first time with Calvin Johnson, the Oakland Raiders at the time selected who? Jamarcus Russell, number 1 overall. Well, what does that mean? Well, the Lions were very fortunate to get Calvin Johnson, is what it means, right? And Ndamukong Suh, who was selected before him? Sam Bradford. And Ndamukong Suh was arguably the best prospect coming out of that draft. You got him at number 2. Right now, in most people's minds, Aidan Hutchinson is the consensus one. If they go Trayvon Walker at number 1, and he's available to you at number 2, what do? And again, by a stroke of luck and a stroke of how the Combine and the Pro Days work out, we've seen it happen with Ndamukong Suh and Calvin. All you need is the first team to take a guy that you didn't want anyways. That way you can get your guy. And if your guy is already Kayvon Thibodeau, well, it doesn't really matter who goes number 1 outside of Kayvon Thibodeau. But if it isn't, and Aidan Hutchinson is your guy, let's say it is Detroit, and let's say he is that guy, and you get him at number 2, the Lions have a track record of hitting on the number 2 overall pick. A track record. And Ndamukong Suh, Calvin Johnson, Charles Rogers, we don't have to talk about it, all right? Everyone shut the hell up. I don't want to hear it. Do you get my point? That's insane to me. Is that we will find ourselves in another position like we did back in 2007, back in 2010, where you had the number 2 overall pick. The teams at the top needed quarterbacks, even though Jacksonville doesn't need one. And everybody is clamoring over the edge rushers this year. But who they're going to take is unclear at the moment. And just because, again, you know, I am so happy. Wow, you just took the words out of my mouth. Cobezilla just took the words out of my mouth in chat. Just because Walker goes number 1, that doesn't delegitimize everything everyone has been saying about Hutchinson. And I would say the same about Thibodeau, Kyle Hamilton, Malik, whatever you want to say. Just because a franchise makes maybe the wrong decision, or they go out and take a guy that they believe in, that doesn't make the player that fell to you any less of a player.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, you should be thankful. Is Calvin Johnson not as good of a player because Jamarcus Russell went number 1? No. Is Ndamukong Suh not a great player because Sam Bradford went number 1 overall? No. So what's the problem? If Trayvon Walker goes number 1 overall, Detroit, unless you are all in sold on Trayvon Walker, you should not be upset. Why? Because now you have Aidan Hutchinson available, Kayvon Thibodeau available, Malik Willis available, Cal Hamilton available. You have all these players that are available. And if you're of the mindset that I want to trade back, well, my friends, that is a pretty interesting dynamic to work with on draft night. And if you don't want to trade back, Detroit, you will end up with, I believe, the most culture fit of the defensive ends in Aidan Hutchinson. Local kid. I think would be an outspoken leader on this football team for a Dan Campbell football team. But regardless of the point, I think he's going to be a very good player in the NFL. Now, does he have the ceiling of a Trayvon Walker, of a Kayvon Thibodeau? No. But I don't think any of you said that TJ Watt had the kind of potential that a Myles Garrett had. Again, this applies to every position. Sometimes it's easier at running back or at wide receiver or at offensive line or on the defensive line or in the secondary. Maybe sometimes it is easier. And the quarterback is the most difficult to figure out. But TJ Watt going at 30. Ed Reed going at 23, I believe. Polamalu at 16. All these great players. Lamar Jackson at 26. Rodgers at 24. Why? Because it's not that easy. And you think you know, you don't know. You don't. You just don't know. So I find it fascinating that reports are coming out of Jacksonville now. That's the guy the fan base wants.
Yeah.
That's the guy that the organization is falling in love with. Why? Guys, I would look at their edge rusher, Josh Allen. Versatile. Big. Strong. Long. Agile. Quick. Boy, does that sound like Trayvon Walker. Essentially, right? In terms of a physical build. Maybe that's what they're going for.
Yeah. Well, Chris Sims came out with his top 5.
I know, and he didn't
prospects.
have
He didn't even
Thibodeau
have
in the top
Thibodeau.
5.
And he put his reasoning in his Twitter.
Yeah, look, again, Chris Sims is not an idiot. He's been actually pretty money on quarterbacks lately. My problem with that is you can't convince me George Karlaftis is a better edge rusher than Kayvon Thibodeau as a prospect. That's the one that kills me. If he wanted to put him at 5, I'd be okay with that. If he dropped him, maybe Chris Sims just doesn't like maybe some of the character reports he's getting, whatever it may be. But to not have him in the top 5, I think is too much, Maddie.
I agree. I was like, there's no way that you don't have Thibodeau in your top 5. Because I could understand him dropping back maybe to 3 or 4. 5 is a stretch even for me. But
you can live with it because he's in the top 5. But
exactly.
Not to be in the 5. Chris, I don't know. That's a tough one for me, Chris. I really want to read into that article and see his reasoning because that outside of character, the film is nice at times. You can question the mortar. We did the same thing with Myles Garrett. That's very interesting. Him not top 5, I think, is a joke. Let's see. Funky says Walker has all the potential in the world. Him and Allen could be a nasty combination. Yeah, Funky, I'm with you. I know you all want to be right, and you want to be smart, and you want to sound smart. All right? You know who you are. But when you want to rip on picks like Trayvon Walker at number 2 or 3, or him going in number 1, why don't you just look at the football player? 6'5", 275, can line up in multiple positions. And in your words, a draft class that doesn't have a clear number 1, why wouldn't you take a chance? Why wouldn't Jacksonville do it? Now, as a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, would I be upset personally? I would question it. I want an offensive tackle. Like, I do. And if we can trade back, that's what I would like. If I'm a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, that's what I want. I want to trade back or I want the tackle. Why? Give Trevor Lawrence every opportunity to succeed, because if he works out in the NFL, I don't need anything. We'll be okay. Like, I can figure it all out later. Get the quarterback right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if I'm a Detroit Lions fan, I have a bridge quarterback. I'm in no rush for a quarterback technically right now. It's not the end of the world if I don't draft one this year. And I've been saying draft the cocaine. And cocaine is 2 things really in this league. It's edge and the quarterback. And if they want to get a quarterback at 32, 2, or 34, I mean, we're going to have a totally different conversation after the draft, but I can understand why at least. And I can understand why if they go with Kayvon Thibodeau, Aidan Hutchinson, or Trayvon Walker. I can understand why. If they don't hit, that's a different conversation. But to sit here and act like these picks are atrocious or they're not the right picks,
Yeah.
unless you have hindsight vision,
Right.
I'm not sure what to tell you this morning.
You can see into the future.
So yeah, I'm feeling good about Hutchinson falling to number 2. And I'm starting to like the idea. Of course, I'd love for Jacksonville to take Trayvon Walker at number 1 overall. Good.
I'm here
And
for
if
it.
they take Aidan, good. That's fine. Like, no matter what happens, whoever is selected number 1 overall, the Detroit Lions will have a selection between Kayvon Thibodeau, Trayvon Walker, and Aidan Hutchinson.
Yeah.
No matter what, they will have a choice of the 3, unless one of them is taken number 1 overall. And if one of them is taken number 1 overall, guess what? They
There's
have a
2 more.
selection of the other 2. You're going to be fine, Detroit. Snort the coke, do the cocaine, and more importantly, draft the cocaine. This is not hard. Holy hell. Football's not a hard game sometimes. We overthink it. If Hutchinson falls to number 2, you have to take him. Like Adam said, he's a Dan Campbell player. I'm along those lines. Look, I think for year 1, you're getting 8.5, 10 sacks out of him for sure, especially
I
in the
would love to get
17-game
Hutchinson.
schedule.
That would be amazing. But again, it goes back to the conversation from the beginning where we were never afraid of who was going to be taken first because we always knew we were going to get a great edge rusher. So
Yeah, I think that was always the conversation is which one are you going to get, right? Never really what position.
Mm-hmm.
Although there are people who want Malik Willis at number 2, who want Kyle Hamilton at number 2.
That's cute.
Again, guys, if you want to live your life and experience life the best way possible, you want to try some of the best foods, right? Okay. If I gave you some low-graded food from some corner shop that was awful, you'd be upset with me. If I gave you 5-star, gourmet, 10 out of 10 quality food,
I
you'd be
prefer
happy.
the low quality.
Right? You would love that kind of food. Except fish.
That's me.
See, fish likes low-end graded cocaine.
Wow, okay.
I
maybe
like
not
the stuff that makes me feel good. I like the cocaine that when it's in my system, Maddie's starting to look like John Travolta to me. That's the stuff I want. What's the problem? I'm not asking for much, guys. Draft the cocaine.